on state, property, a campground. Well, they decided to go across the road and go down a ways, and it turned out to be on federal land. They saw lights. The lights all of a sudden landed. They saw aliens. They were abducted, taken on board. They saw other people on the craft, naked, holding their clothes. Well, they were released after they were experimented on, but the craft took off with these people. And James, like you mentioned, that he said he swore he saw people or creatures in tubes, with liquid, on the craft.
Yeah, when he was on the craft, they were on the conveyor belt, just like, I don't know, like Solid Green. I was something crazy, bizarre out of a movie. And he couldn't move nothing. He was paralyzed, but standing up, holding his clothes. The only thing he could move was his eyes to the right or to the left. And as he's going along on this conveyor belt, and then it's like being in a horror movie because he can't move. All he can do is move his eyes a little bit, and the sounds. It's in this huge UFO inside of it, and there's other humans everywhere, and they can't move, but they're all hollering and crying and moaning with pain
Screaming.
And misery. And he gets by that one test tube, and there's some kind of half-breed or a hybrid in there, and it opens his eyes at it when he looks at it, and it's so bizarre and freaky, it scared him to death, and he still has nightmares of that hybrid opening his eyes up when it looked at him.
Yeah, and he packs a gun and a flashlight next to his, nightstand next to his bed because, he's so terrified. Even Whitley, was saying that he's still not as often, but he still gets these visits, and they're not the most friendly type of visits that he gets. It's scary. So something is going on, and if they're just sitting there looking to figure out what makes us tick and doing these cattle mutilations and human mutations. There's a lot, if you check into it, a lot of human mutilations. Why are they doing what they're doing? I wouldn't see them doing it on a regular basis. So whatever they're doing, they're not just experimenting or trying to find out about us, because they would have had all the information they had a long time ago. So I'm really concerned what is going on. Now, I get these people, Tim, it'll come on the show, and they're saying, they're here to protect us. They're here to keep us from having a nuclear war. There are 25 million cloak UFOs, going around the Earth to keep us from being invaded by the wrong species of aliens. Oh, I don't know what they're smoking. But I can tell you that something is up, and we're just not getting the answers.
Well, okay, you made some really excellent points there about this whole subject, and you mentioned that this is something that has been going on for centuries and probably longer. If you go and you look at some of these, like ancient texts, Sumerian and Babylonian that we have found. Even our own Bible. There are all kinds of stories that are so similar to the things that people are reporting today. Of course, the descriptions in these older texts are written in a way that fits their belief systems, their society, and of course our reports and our descriptions are the same way. But there are some really marked similarities. So if this is the case, if this is something that has been going on since the beginning of time, so to speak, you're correct. You would think that they would have had all the blood samples, all the skin cell tissues, all the eggs taken from women for their genetic experiments a long time ago. So if that's the case, why is this still going on? Why is it the same now as it was 5,000 years ago? And if whatever is the source behind all of this, if it has been here this long, can you really accurately describe it as alien? You know, are we dealing with something that is maybe as indigenous to this planet or this solar system even as we are? Just because it looks, whatever it is, you know, it looks different, doesn't necessarily mean that we are dealing with creatures from, you know, Alpha Centauri or what have you. So, you know, I want to put that seed into your listener's brain and let it germinate for a while, that, you know, what we're dealing with may not be alien or extraterrestrial as we commonly use those words.
Now, Tim, could it be like, you know, I really feel that this planet has been rebooted several times. And right. I keep thinking about with Rob Taylor, the Time Machine, that, you know, the first movie made, and how the creatures that, you know, when the Earth was being destroyed by the nuclear war or whatever happened, they went underground. And then over centuries, they started, you know, changing and became cannibals and became, recognizable as humans. But they would come up and basically they were raising humans for one thing, the same way we raise cattle, to eat. Could we be looking at maybe something even like that? I thought I'd throw it in.
Could very well be, yeah. You know, a lot of people perceive the things that have gone on with them, with these abduction experiences, as being, you know, evil. But if you kind of put it into the perspective of, say, a farmer and his livestock, you know, a farmer takes very good care of his cattle or pigs or chickens or what have you, really cares about them, feeds them well, makes sure that they're healthy, but then at the end, you know what happens. So, I mean, it's if we're dealing with a situation, and, you know, this, of course, isn't any new speculation, where we are just really fodder for somebody's interstellar refrigerator, then, we could very well be dealing with something that generally cares about us, but at the end, you know, we're wrapped up in plastic and put in the freezer.
Yeah, well, they care about us the same way the farmers do. It's a commodity, okay? That's why they take care and they give their animals penicillin. They give them, you know, antibiotics. They make sure they're fed right and gain weight, and then they off to the market or the slaughterhouse. You know, the thing is, when you look at these mutilations, both cattle and human, they all the same thing. The rectums, the heart, you know, the eyes, the tongue, you know, in the brain, all the same, regardless if it's a cow, a bull, a moose, or a human, you know, and the sex glands are removed. It's kind of strange. And I had one lady who swears up and down, she wrote a book about it. She goes, it's not aliens, it's not, you know, interdimensional, it's the U.S. military. I don't believe that. Not for a second, because if the military was, you know, doing experiments or whatever, they have the money, they could create their own herds of cattle. They could do whatever they do. They wouldn't go down to somebody's farm or ranch and, decide, hey, we're going to take that guy's bull and mutilate it and take certain. It's the same thing like in Brazil, Argentina, the rainforest, France, Germany. There's been these cases of human mutilations. The same thing, the rectum, the genital, I'm not even going to say the word, the heart and all that. And some of the organs, it seems like, are not even laser. It's like puncture marks where basically these organs are sucked through little teeny holes. How are they doing that? And the blood is drained totally. So, again, something is going on because, again, why would this continue going on? It hasn't stopped.
No, yeah, and you're absolutely correct. I mean, it has. You have periods of activity. Just recently, there's been increased activity in Oregon for some reason. A lot of these locations probably has some significance. Christopher O'Brien wrote a really good book on the subject called "Stalking the Herd," and he tries pretty hard, not to come to any conclusions because there are none to be had, because it seems like almost like an Agatha Christie novel. It seems like everybody seems to be involved. I mean, you've got UFOs being seen in the areas where these mutilations occur. You have black military-looking helicopters. I mean, some people have even reported, seeing armed soldiers in the fields that when they later go to investigate, they find cattle mutilated. So whatever is going on, it's probably not as easy to say, well, this is it's all UFOs and aliens, or it's all the military, or in the case of the mutilations that have just been recently happening in Oregon, they brought back the old bugaboo of Satanists, that it's cultists who are going out there and mutilating these cattle and taking their blood for their evil activities, which to me that's even harder to believe, because it'd be a lot easier for, say, military in specially equipped helicopters to come in and do this, as opposed to just young adults in vans.
Well, are they going to have equipment to do it in laser or better capabilities of removing these stuff? They certainly, it's so precise how it's done. There's one in Oregon. I can't think of the pathologist's name, but he investigates cattle mutilations. And his job, he works for a county as a pathologist. For autopsies and all that stuff. He claims now this last bull it was mutilated was standing when whatever it started happening to it. It was standing because the eyes were removed. The liquid between the brain and the eyes would, if it would have been, laid down or put on whatever to be experimented on, all this stuff being done, the liquid matter would have ran off the side of its head. Mm-hmm. It ran off the nostrils. Okay, the trace of it, the liquid ran off, and he said that the only way that could be done, and he said it's not just this one, it's been most of these mutilations, whatever's happening to these cattle, they're standing up when this is happening. When their eyes are removed, they're alive, standing. So whatever is doing it doesn't care about feelings of any, a sort of a human or animal life.
Well, there's been a couple of cases where the mutilated cattle have been found, say, lodged in the top of a tree, or there was one where it was found hanging from the electrical wires going across the field.
Yeah, that makes it.
So now go and explain that.
I don't know, but I had a trucker on my show maybe 10 months ago, and